It. This podcast is about film. I'm Christian, joined once again by Mitchell and Zach, and
Hi.
we're sort of working our way through our last few titles of the season, starting with my last pick, La Land, directed by Damien Chazelle and starring Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling as Mia and Sebastian, two very aspirational characters that live in Los Angeles, and Mia is an actress, or an aspiring actress, and Sebastian is a jazz pianist, and they both have big dreams, and they sing and dance, and it is a big movie that won a lot of awards and is sort of a big point of cultural I don't think inflection is the right word, but kind of like maybe a less polarizing Last Jedi, in that there are a lot of people that really, really love this movie and a lot of people that are like, it's fine, and a small amount of people that really, really hate it. But we may or may not get into that. Usually we start with general thoughts and ratings out of 5, but I thought today I would flip the script like I sometimes do and ask you guys to start off with discussion about our two leads, Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling. What did we make of their chemistry and their performances?
All right. Well, you're throwing me off my game, Christian.
Excellent.
I will say that I really like Emma Stone and I really like Ryan Gosling in this movie. I like both of them in this movie. That was a weirdly phrased sentence. I think in particular, Ryan Gosling, it's sort of something he brings to this character, but I think he brings it to all of his roles. He has this really magnetic quality as an actor, specifically in the way that he moves. And that's not to say that he's like a Buster Keaton or something, where he's constantly like, whoa, tripping and falling all over the place, or anything like that. But he'll do this thing where when he's surprised in like a scene, he'll drop something or move really quickly and then just hold totally still. And that happens a couple times in this movie, and it happens in other movies as well, but that instantly draws your eye to his character. Aside from those more nitty-gritty aspects, though, I do think that I really believe the chemistry between Stone and Gosling. I do in every film that they're in. They're really convincing as like a couple, which they've played at least twice, maybe even three times.
Yeah.
In film, because it totally works. I think one of the best scenes in this is kind of early on when Gosling has been fired as a pianist at the club, and now he's part of an 80s cover band, and Emma Stone's character asked them to play I Ran, and he's just staring daggers at her throughout the entire thing while he's playing his guitar because he so clearly hates it, and she's mugging for the camera and really loving the moment. And I think that's great. There's so many moments like that where they communicate so much just with their action and their faces, even though the dialogue is great as well. So yeah, even though there are some issues that I do have with this film, some, small some, I think Stone and Gosling are not one of those.
Yay, small sum instead of larger sum. I'll take it because I know I have no other choice. Okay, Mitchell, your turn.
You do not.
They're all right to me. Yeah, I completely agree with everything Zach said. I think they both have. I don't want to get back into that Javier Bardem getting canceled because of his accent thing again, but I do want to say that both of them have very distinct voices, and they both sound remarkably not as composed, I guess. Composed in terms of not like their phraseology, but the way that they speak words out of their mouths. And it seems a lot more natural. Maybe it's because I'm not experienced with these two actors and things that matter a whole lot most of the time. To be honest, like they're worser films that I've seen, because those are the only really other ones I've seen of them besides, Blade Runner and Zombieland. I don't know. But I think I think they're totally believable. I don't have any problems really with their characters. I mean, I think the whole film is pretty much just about their personalities and their goals, and I don't know. There's not a lot that can really go wrong with that anyway. So I don't think there's really any fault with them. I think they're perfectly cast, and yeah, I have no problem with them at all. I think they're great.
Awesome, excellent. We're off to a great start. Okay, I really adore both of these performers in much of their other work, but I do think that this is probably, for both of them, their best role. We recently watched Blade Runner 2049 together, and Ryan Gosling's great in that, but it's a totally different part. And I do think with Sebastian in this movie, Zach summed it up the best. It's really his actions that punctuate everything so perfectly, and also a little bit in his dialogue. But there's this sense of conviction to his character. Like he knows what he cares about, and he's very assured in the way that he talks to Mia and to anyone really. And that's punctuated in like Zach said, his short little movements of surprise, like when he's cooking and in the observatory, as well as in his more heated moments, like when he's towards the end when he's really, really angry at Mia for not jumping at this audition opportunity. That's one of my favorite scenes. And I don't want to leave less praise on Emma Stone though, because I mean she is the Oscar winner for a reason for this, and I do think part of it is kind of that she's playing herself, and I'm sure to some extent she's lived what the character has lived, being someone who went to Hollywood to be an actor. So, but I think it works, and you guys summed it up well. Okay, with that out of the way, general thoughts and ratings out of 5. Did you guys like this? What did you like? Explain the numbers and explain them well.
Bite the bullet, Zach. It's all your fault.
Sure. Okay, so I gave this movie a 4 out of 5, and I could tell that made Christian quite displeased, because for Christian this is very much a 5 out of 5 film. But what I'll say for this movie is I really like it. It's just one specific thing in the script that really throws the story off for me and does take it down a little bit. As well as I think some of the staging in the musical numbers is a little off in places. They're very well choreographed, but there are moments like at the very beginning in Another Day of Sun where they filmed the entire thing outside, so unavoidably you're going to have to deal with the angle of the sun. And so there are shots in that musical number where they're dancing and everybody is in like shadow, which I don't really think contributes to the aesthetic that they're going for. There are little things like that are just kind of par for the course when it comes to shooting a naturalistic musical that are going to be unavoidable kind of drags on a second or third viewing, because you start to notice things like that a little bit more. But I do really enjoy this movie. I really like the color palette. It has a very French color palette. It's very triadic,
Yes,
very red, blue, and yellow. But I do like how it varies up. In the daytime, we have very bright kind of whites, yellows, blues, reds, and at the night, we still have those same triadic color values, but they're deepened a little bit, so you get kind of closer to maroons and dark blues and maybe kind of more of an earthy yellow, and the color palette moves and travels with the film. I really enjoy that. I enjoy the design. I enjoy the production design. It's a very well made movie. Really the big thing that just throws it off for me is I don't like that the third act is essentially spurred by what I consider a really contrived and kind of fanciful moment in the script, which I think most of this movie stylistically is very kind of fanciful and very kind of classic Hollywood. I think the script is trying to be grounded, though. I think the script is relatively realistic. It's trying to address the hardships of living in LA, so I like that a lot. What I don't like, though, is that the third act is kind of spurred on by Emma Stone. You gave this one-woman play, and there happened to be a massive casting agent in the audience who wants to build an entire movie around you. I think that feels so fake to me. 99.999% of the time, that does not happen to people in this industry. Like, it bugs me so much that the movie is so grounded and realistic, for the most part, in its script until that point. And then it just goes, and we have this cliche in the box. And it's a shame, because I like everything after that, too. I don't despise the entirety of the third act. I don't like how the third act is triggered by that one really cliched moment. But otherwise, it's a 4 out of 5, and I do really like the movie.
I'm scared to get on the burning stick
It's okay.
Keep
I'm
your
a little
mouth
surprised.
shut, boy.
No. I just wanted to clarify real quick. I'm not mad. I'm not as mad at the 4 as you might think. I'm kind of surprised that that's the moment you fixated on, but we'll get to that. Mitchell, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh Lord. Okay. I give it a 4, guys. Settle down. Okay. I give it a 4. I thought it was fine. Okay. It was great. Okay. It was great. One of the best parts about this, okay, like probably my favorite part about this, is how grounded and realistic it actually was. I was not expecting that at all. I feel like the musical numbers don't feel inserted at all. I feel like they're almost believable, which is kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you know what? There's probably some people like this somewhere that do this all the time, and I like, you know what? I believe it, right? And they're impassioned enough, and everything totally fits great, and that's perfectly fine. And I think that's like my favorite part. Besides their actual chemistry, and just the general events that happen, and the color palette, obviously, Zach mentioned it, and I think that's like stylistically, like this is like second to none. I can't even comprehend how awesome it looks all the time. Also, I did not like this at all, and stop making me suffer, Christian. But I'm gonna say that now. But otherwise. The reason why I gave it a 4 and not a 5 is because I felt like it was. I know this is gonna sound like every musical does this all the time, but I feel like it was trying to appease expectations, and to the point where Zach had mentioned to a fault, and I feel like it kind of got like to the point where I could just like pretty much write the rest of the movie, and it would pretty much be like exactly how I was expecting. And to me, that kind of ruins the realism for me. And maybe it's because I'm overly fixated on the realism and try to kind of forget that it's a musical. That could be part of the reason why. But especially, I completely agree with Zach's criticism. I think that was completely out of left field for me as well. And I think it kind of just, it kind of ruined my investment. Any investment I had, it was kind of starting to simmer away at the end. Not to say that the moments towards the end are not bad as isolated, kind of, or, as wrapping up the story, kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like part of the major thing. When I think about it, like when it's a part of the actual narrative, I like it a lot less because of how things were going cliche towards the end. But I don't have criticism really after that. I think it ends fine. I don't have, but it's not like super innovative or anything. And I understand a lot of the film is supposed to be calling back to a lot of older, narratives and older films and musicals even. And I'm perfectly fine with that. And if anything, I would actually be happier than if it tried to be like something crazy that I've never seen before. But I think that's kind of an inevitability in my eyes. I feel like there's really not a lot that could be done to correct that. But I feel like if the film had brought a lot more in the creative department when it comes to the narrative, I would have definitely like agreed this was a 5. But I feel like there's a couple cliches that come out of left field that are just they kind of just ruin the investment for me. So
very interesting. I'm surprised that of all the things to take issue with, both of your things are plot specific. I definitely would not have guessed that. That is interesting to me. I love this film. This is, I feel like I almost come across as stilted so far in this episode because I'm trying so hard to be unemotional because this is going to be a longish discussion. But I absolutely love this movie. It's just. There's nothing else like it for me. I gave it a 5 out of 5, but it almost defies a number scale for me. It means an immense amount. When I first saw this movie, it was with none other than my co-host Zach on a sort of
we were
awkward
on a double date, not with each other though.
Oh Lord,
awkward pseudo double date. Yes, and it was a strange time in our lives.
Probably.
Yeah.
Gosh, and I just remember walking out of the theater in a total stupor, like what just happened. I was very shook up by the ending, and I had no idea what to make of my opinion of the movie or any of it. I was just so immensely shook, for lack of a better term. And I think I said something similar when we discussed The Secret Life of Walter Mitty at the end of season 1, but even more so for this film. this was really forced me to think about movies in a different way. And since that first viewing, I got this on Blu-ray at some point, and it became almost a compulsive rewatch for me for a few years. And I've seen this many times, but knowing that I wanted to discuss it on the podcast, I have not seen it for many months, maybe close to a year at this point, which may not sound like a big deal, but it runs very counter to the habit I had of watching this over and over. And I just think it's a very complete story, and I don't really fixate on it as a musical at all, even though it is one. I don't know if I'm more or less drawn to the music than I am to the more dialogue heavy scenes, but this is just one of those films that works for me on every level. I find it immensely affecting every time, and in some senses I find what we're doing and what I'm trying to do right now a little bit perverse, because I can't really summarize why I like this movie so much. It's just one of those things where you just, something hits you really hard and you really love it a lot, and that's kind of all you can say about it, I guess. But we're gonna try to put some subjective objective spins on it and talk about it in some depth. And I want to address the what you said about the casting director, Zach. I agree that that's like obviously something that would maybe never happen in LA. But I say I'll allow it because for two reasons. We see her hustling a lot and sending out like a billion emails and trying to get people to fill those seats. But more importantly, one of the first things we know is she's a really good actor, because our first moment with this character, we think she's on the phone with like a friend or a family member or something, and the audience doesn't know that she's rehearsing a scene until she mixes up insanity with lunacy in her line, and then she like checks the paper. And so basically she's such a good actor that we're convinced that she's not acting, even though she is acting in a movie where her character is an actor. You guys get it. You guys get where I'm going.
I will say the emails, I think, makes it mildly defensible, even though I wish a different thing had been done in that moment to get us into the third act. Sure. The phone call for me doesn't really work as a defense. Maybe it's just because I'm familiar with editorial and cinematic shorthand, but even when we first saw this back in 2016, like, I had a feeling this is going to be a bait and switch. This is going to like shift, and she's going to be talking, like rehearsing something. Like,
It does not surprise me at all that you spotted it, Zach. But I will say I think almost every viewer ever is less discerning than you. So that's sort of a backhanded compliment of sorts, I think. So there you go, Zach.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to talk about the direction, because I think Damien Chazelle's style really adds a lot to this. Zach, you already mentioned the triadic thing and the French stuff or whatever, but any other notes about the direction or editing that stuck out to you guys and either helped or hurt the film as a whole?
A lot of contrast, but it's like realistic contrast. It's not. I would say like the beginning scene on the highway is like the most unrealistic, just because everyone just happens to be dressed differently. Every other, like, any scene pretty much after is like realistic clothing, and like it's not like, you know, like when, you know, and when Sebastian's playing the piano and stuff, and like when he's at the parties and whatever, like it's not like Adrian Brody in a Netflix special, and that's what makes me happy. That's how I'm gonna end that.
Yeah, I will say that I like Damien Chazelle as a director. I don't think this is his flashiest movie. Here he makes the choice to like Whiplash, which he directed, I think right before this, is like a very, the direction is noticeable in that. And in this, I think he's deliberately trying to be a lot more presentational and just kind of let the numbers and the actors be what they're going to be in the scene. So I will just say things that stood out about the direction for me. This has some gorgeous anamorphic wide shots in it. And we know from our discussion on Suspiria that I'm a sucker for anamorphic lenses. And then additionally, I really like the way that he directs the musical numbers. A lot of the time, the impulse with modern musical numbers, see The Greatest Showman, is to go huge and over the top with the cinematography and the direction, and I like how this doesn't do that. It's appropriate to the story that for the most part we stay kind of, there's some camera movement, but it's very fluid. It's not necessarily all that kind of excited or noticeable, and we just kind of move about with the actors. I think, what is the song called? What a Beautiful Night, What a Waste of a Beautiful Night is a great example of that.
Yeah.
A Lovely Night, there we go. Where
it's a night. I don't know.
Throughout the majority of the scene, we're just observing these two characters, and we move around with them when we need to, and we go a little wider when we need to, but we're not, spinning around 360 and going in the air on a crane or anything like that. The only place where we start to get really flashy with the direction is at the end, during the final piano piece, where we're seeing what their lives could have been, and that then it gets a lot more dreamy and unusual because it's appropriate given the script. So, a great direction for a great script. I think they pair together well and understand their mutual tonality well.
Yeah. I already talked, Christian.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, Adrian Brody.
Oh, right, Adrian Brody. Yeah. No, I think you guys covered it well. One of my now favorite directors is Jacques Demy, and I've talked about him a bit on some other episodes, but one of my favorite things that I noticed on this rewatch is right under the window that Mia says Bogart and Bergman stood in for Casablanca, right under it, the sort of facade storefront thingy says Parapluie, which is French for umbrella, which is the title of The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, which is by far the biggest influence on this film, I would say. And also, when Mia is writing her one-woman play, her character's name is Geneviève, which is also the main character's name in The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. So some nice Demi Easter eggs for the discerning French cinephile. But no, I think you guys covered it well.
I am French.
He does a very good job. Thank you, Damien. Very cool. One of the most common complaints I hear about this movie is the singing. And I wanted to give us some time to talk about both the music, like the musical numbers. If you want to talk about the choreography, that's fine too. And the singing. But also the score, the more jazzy bits. What did you guys make of the music in this film?
I like the music and the singing a lot. I have gone on record as not really being a music man. I think I'm more of a music man than I was in season 1 at this point, but I'm still not really a music man, and I can't sing. So I am typically quite fond of films in which we have characters who can't necessarily sing, just doing their best and kind of representing or representing emotion through song in the moment in a way that a real person might do. I like that the singing and the dancing in this feel like they're coming from normal people. You don't see any crazy somersaults or anything like that. There's some tap. There's some kind of dress swishing, maybe salsa-esque, I suppose. But for the most part, this feels
marching
like
band
stuff,
color guard.
For the most part, this feels like stuff that actual people could do if they felt like it on the spur of the moment. And I think that's appropriate given, like we said, the grounded realism of the narrative. So I like the music here. I like Ryan Gosling on piano. He impressed me a lot more this time than he did when I first saw the film. I do think he does some really impressive stuff with the piano. I mean, I'm not a pianist, but I can tell when somebody's moving their fingers in the right way on the keys. Like that that looks complicated.
It sure does.
And he does some stuff that looks complicated and difficult in this film. So yeah, I think the music in this film is great.
Nice.
I think it was back in middle school when I tried out. I auditioned for Tick Tick Boom by the Hives, and that was the only time I ever tried to sing anything to an audience. Did not go well. And then I did Unarmed Drill Team in JROTC in high school, and that's the closest thing I got to dance. And that's all I know. So I could hold a rhythm, kids, and that's about it. But I think it's fine. I think it's the pacing's a big part of it. I think the sound mixing is also a pretty big part of it as well.
Yeah.
I feel like their voices don't feel like they're drowned out, but they also don't feel like they're being focused on too much either. So I think, the orchestral background music is really kind of what I start to focus on if I feel like at all their singing's wavering in certain parts, but it really doesn't bother me at all. I've heard a lot of people sing, so I'm average layman saying, also not music man either. But I think it was fine. And I agree with Zach. I think just having that casual, jazzy undertone most of the film, I think it really helps a lot. It helps everything be a lot more casual and much more achievable for the actors. And it doesn't just become like we got to do the triple backflip thingy, and we got to run and skip down this road in Sound of Music and spin around being filmed on a helicopter getting knocked down. So yeah, I think it works perfectly fine with the tone, and I think I don't have any complaints. I really like the Start a Fire with John Legend. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the song name right. Huzzah. I heard the background singers sing it. That is my favorite song. I really like that song a lot.
I will mention that song is weird for me because the narrative of the film seems to suggest that this is kind of like a soulless version of what Seb actually wants to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's really cool. It doesn't really feel like...
But it's not real jazz.
It doesn't really feel like the shameless pop that the movie wants it to seem like. I get that it's not what he wants to be playing, but at the same time, it's one of those things where I do feel like it could be a little more LMFAO or something to
I'm really
make
glad
the audience think, boy, this ain't it, bud.
Well, I would say that part of that is because of John Legend as well.
Yeah.
Because there's tons of his style in there.
And
too.
they established that the character Keith is a jazz musician that has played with Sebastian before, and you get this really good speech, I think, from John Legend, who's I think a first-time actor in this, but I think is very good, where he's talking about how jazz is dying because of these purists who are refusing to innovate in spite of how jazz came to popularity in the first place. So I think that speech is really important, and maybe in terms of purely servicing the narrative, it would be better if it was just trashy pop. But I'm intrigued by the idea that what John Legend is doing can be artful even if Sebastian doesn't like it. And I do love that scene because when he's playing the crazy solo on the one synthesizer that looks kind of like a touch pusher button thing, whenever he's playing that, the crowd is like surging forward and putting more distance between him and Mia. And then the second he switches back to the grand piano, they stop pushing them further apart. I just think that's a really, really nice touch. That always sticks out to me on every rewatch. Oof. What was I going to say about the singing? Yes. I like what Zach said about the singing. I agree. I like how it feels like normal people singing and dancing. But at the same time, I don't think they're bad singers. I don't think either of them are bad singers. And if I hear another pitchy theater kid say that they are, I'm gonna bop them on the head real quick, as George Lucas would say. But I think it's more of a stylistic quirk, and I think musical people or music men and women or whatever are gonna be like, I don't like how Emma Stone is breathy, and she is kind of breathy, but she's not pitchy. Like, all of the notes come through totally fine, and I don't think Ryan has really any problems except maybe projecting. But like Mitchell said, the sound mixing is really good here, so that's not a problem. And I'm glad you mentioned the sound mixing, because in something like West Side Story, it might be really obvious that the actors are dubbed, or in like Singing in the Rain, their voices will get like 3 times louder when a song starts, and I don't have that issue here at all. So definitely a really, really strong point there. I think that's about... Oh, I guess we should probably talk about the ending and the epilogue bit, at least a little bit. Did that work for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it totally works for me. Like I said, I like the ending. I like the conclusion a lot. I don't necessarily like the one major thing that leads us there. But I do like this. I like that they don't get everything that they want, because I'm a well-published cynic at this point, and like I like to see stories where characters maybe get one thing that they wanted, but at the cost of losing something else, or they have to give up something to achieve something else. So I like that here in order to achieve their dreams, which one could argue may even be the selfish alternative. In order for Seb to start his club, and in order for Mia to become a big actress, they kind of have to give each other up. And I like that. I like that a lot. I like the piano sequence at the end as well, where we flash into this sort of very French presentation of what their lives could have been. It's very kind of dreamy and silhouetted, and probably the most stylistic thing in the movie. I like the ending a lot, and I really like how it just stops there as well. I like that that is the end, and we don't feel the need to go out to the car with Emma Stone and white man number 5 and have some sort of like final dialogue scene. Like, I like that it's kind of, okay, we've had our recap, we understand in these close-ups what this is meant to mean, and now we're done. I like that a lot.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And it's a part of my review. I'd said it's kind of like a tried and true formula. It's kind of the same thing with war films, because it's either they win or they lose, and anything that's tried in between is kind of like a diamond in the rough most of the time, unless something like really innovative comes out and changes that. But like in this, it's kind of the same thing. It's like it's either they choose one thing or the other. It's kind of just like a duality. They have to choose between their careers or their love, and it's only going to end up one way or the other. It's not necessarily detriment. It's kind of like on par, I would say. I don't think it's like, the greatest ending of all time, but it definitely works. Like, there's no like major problems with it. For me personally, it drags, but I know that that's a part of. I should be okay, Christian. I have opinions. All right. So yes, because I knew how it was gonna end. I was waiting. I was expecting the ending. But I don't. That doesn't mean it wasn't well made. I think it was. I don't. There's not anything I'd want to change about it. It was just like I was just kind of waiting for when we're gonna get out of the dream thing, and it's all gonna be disappointment, and that's how the film ends. Is pretty much what I was thinking in the last 10 minutes. And that's what happened. So hey, I can't say I was disappointed. I guess. Okay. But yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I guess this is final thoughts now. But the only Billy I listen to is Billie Holiday.
Oh jeez. Okay. Enough of that.
You're welcome.
Oh jeez. Well, I guess the ending was it? Yeah, I think Zach kind of summed it up nicely. One little detail that I didn't notice, in the billions of times I've watched this movie, I didn't notice this until now. There's this sort of like American in Paris, Singing in the Rain type beat where they're sort of walking through a facade that's meant to look like Paris, and then at some point they're taken away. It's right after the trumpet solo, I think. I don't even know exactly where, but it's like mid-ish way through the epilogue, and Mia and Seb sit down, and then it's like a projection of what their lives could have been, and they're watching it. And I somehow never noticed that the two of them are watching it with the audience, but I think it's a really nice touch. In terms of the ending, I love the ending. I kind of thought it was the greatest ending of all time the first time I saw it, and I kind of still do, even if it's not wholly original. I don't know. I think I was really little old, just turned 16 me was very scandalized by the idea that it wasn't going to be a happy ending, because I was so expecting that. That way.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was shook, man. I was like, I'm still shook. I still
talked about that on the car ride home, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Zach saved me.
I think some of you were seriously concerned for my mental well-being, but I just think it's great. Zach, you summed it up pretty well, so I'll stop harping on it. And any more final thoughts, Zach? I guess Mitchell kind of already gave. You're free to give more too if you want.
My punchline.
Yeah.
No, jazz is really cool.
Yes.
This is not a complaint on the film at all. It's just something I noticed while I was thinking about it today. I think it's weird that this movie addresses dreams as if there's something you need to get right now. Because I think that one of the interesting things about Ryan Gosling's character in this film is that he wants to, his big thing is he wants to open a jazz club. And he becomes a part of this band that's becoming pretty successful doing jazz-inspired pop/funk/rock music. And then one of the major conflicts is, are you going to be in this band forever? What happened at the club? And today I was thinking, like, well, successful musicians have clubs. Like, it occurred to me, like, and this isn't a complaint on the film, but it occurred to me, like, that the movie seems to think of that dream as something that he has to give everything up and work to achieve right now. When I think, logically, he could be like, I'm gonna stay with the band, I'm gonna make a couple of albums, see how big we get, and then, maybe I'll open the club. Because, George Harrison had a film studio, Ringo had, like, a bar and like a sports bar or something
boy.
at some point. Like successful musicians have clubs, so I do think that his dream could exist in tandem with his success in this film. It's just, and that's not a complaint. Obviously, the plot has to happen and that moment has to happen. But it was something that occurred to me as like, okay, Seb, if you were out there in real life, think about this and maybe explain it to Mia first.
No, yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I just see that moment as like a really kind of petty disagreement where they're both kind of right and both kind of wrong, and they all say the like exact wrong thing to upset the other person. And I think Mia probably sees it that way to some extent, because of her impetus to get her dream now. But yeah, I think that's something worth noticing. Yeah, I love this movie. It is hard for me to describe how much it means to me, and I would strongly recommend that anyone watch it. And I harp on this quite a bit in a very long Letterboxd review I wrote, probably the longest I'll ever write. I'm terribly sorry.
Yeah.
But I propose the idea that this is not about Hollywood or jazz or theater or musicals or plays or I really think it is about Mia and Sebastian and their passions and the sort of work-life balance ideas behind that. And I think if you're really passionate about anything, you'll find a little bit to empathize with these characters. So I highly, highly recommend it, and I'm glad you two found something to get out of it. And I am not mad at your fours. I will take them, and I will accept it. Thank you for having this discussion, guys. This is my last the last one I'll be hosting this season, so it's been fun. I'll be around in the co-host chair, but thank you guys for discussing some of my favorites this year. I really loaded up on my favorites. So
Yeah,
alrighty.
Welcome.
On to our segment, Week in Review. Who would like to start?
yes.
Bit.
I
Go.
Oh,
I'm
right,
taking the
right.
reins, Zach.
All
Get
right.
back in the carriage. Get back in the carriage. Air Force One. Air Force One. Yes. President. I forgot his name. President Harrison Ford.
President
yes.
Harrison Ford, yeah.
President Harrison Ford does a Die Hard on Air Force One in 1997, and that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
And yep, that's it. 3.5 out of 5. The CGI looks like some test models for like an older video game.
Yeah.
They just didn't have enough time to fully render it, but they wanted to show the entire the cinematics, so they had to show everything. That really does not hold up at all.
No.
But there's some really good action scenes that are really well filmed. And I think that having that enclosed space and just having some random baddies get shot at, there's a lot of value to that not a lot of people might realize. And I think that's a great thing. Gary Oldman's in it. He's all right, I guess. He's definitely played way better villains, and he's definitely just played better parts in general, really.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not necessarily bad, and none of the supporting characters are necessarily bad per se. I think the vice president, what's her name? She does a great job.
Glenn Close, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that whole Oval Office discussion with the Air Force One, Harrison Ford being a meme on the plane is a lot of fun. So pretty much what you would expect from 1997. A little bit too much CGI, but yeah, I recommend it. Giving it a shot if you're a fan of the boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also gave Air Force One. I gave it a 3 out of 5, and I called it an acceptably entertaining film, which I think is a pretty typical review of Air Force One. I don't think it's anybody's favorite movie, but it's entertaining. So I think my very first week in review, I talked about Pink Floyd, and I've been re-listening to Pink Floyd lately. Today, I re-listened to A Momentary Lapse of Reason, which was their first album after Roger Waters left the band, and therefore it's the first album on which guitarist David Gilmour is kind of the leader of the band, and therefore it has a very different sound. Roger Waters, I don't know, I guess you could kind of call him the John Lennon of the group, in that there's a lot of very deep and painful consideration of like his relationship with his parents and how his dad died in World War II, and like it's very personal, and there's lots of wailing and screaming about that. David Gilmour just seems to want to make cool music, but Momentary Lapse of Reason came out in the 80s, so that means that music is pretty dated. In a lot of places, this album does kind of feel like a discount Genesis album, but there are cool tracks, and I like what it's going for. It's not as dated as the most embarrassing stuff of the 80s, even though I'd probably call it Pink Floyd's worst album. So check out Pink Floyd. I love Pink Floyd. I don't think they ever made a bad album, but if they made a least good album, it was probably Momentary Lapse of Reason.
Perhaps not as dated as I Ran by a Flock of Seagulls, which I actually
No.
I actually do love that song, even though it's quite corny.
I like his hair.
Gosh, what did I watch? Well, I also watched Harrison Ford be a president, and it was fun, 3 out of 5. And I watched a couple other Harrison Ford films. I'm not going to talk about Raiders in depth, except 5 out of 5. Go see it. Zach is wrong. It's perfect. And we also watched Blade Runner 2049. Give me a romance with Ryan Gosling, and I will be sad and happy and enthralled. Give me a romance with Ryan Gosling opposite of either Emma Stone or Ana de Armas, and it's over. It's over, dear listener. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 the first time I saw it. This time I gave it a 5. I really don't think there's any way to improve on it at all. This is kind of how I arrived at the 5. It's a gorgeously made film with terrific cinematography, and it's just man, it's just one of those, you know. It's really good. Okay, what's our next?
That's why I gave it a 4.
segment?
Because you gave it a 5.
The Magical Cinema
Fair
Tour.
enough.
The Magical Cinema
yeah,
Tour has come to take Christian away.
Whee! I'm rolling up.
Choo-choo.
I'm rolling up to the house in front of the library to watch a classic film. What did I watch this time? I watched Yojimbo, another Kurosawa samurai film, also starring one Toshiro Mifune. And I gave it a 4 out of 5. This is the lowest rating I've ever given to a Kurosawa film, just to give you an idea of how consistently excellent this man is. It just didn't really capture my attention as much as the other ones. I think it's probably the least interesting Toshiro has been thus far in my outings with him, but it's still really great. I mean, he's a lot of my Kurosawa discussion and anyone's Kurosawa discussion is rife with Star Wars comparisons, and I think his character in this is you might like bill him as a Jedi, but he's kind of a little bit more like a bounty hunter with morals, and there's some interesting back and forth discussion of that, and I'm not really sure where the sequel's going, but Sanjuro is the sequel, and I will be watching that in the not too distant future, and maybe I'll discuss it here, maybe not, but I'd still recommend Yojimbo. 4 out of 5. I greatly enjoyed it. It's very well made. But I will say, if you're going to give Kurosawa a try, I'd probably either go like loosely chronological and start with Rashomon and then go through like his other really well-regarded films, or start with Hidden Fortress, just because I think that's a really good audience-friendly place to start. But amazing director. I'd highly recommend his work to pretty much anyone. Yeah. And then it was
On
time.
to the rundown?
Yes, for that.
It was.
The down of the runs. The run of downs.
Oh, I think this is a really good one.
There
Not to
is.
hype it up too much, but yeah. I wrote it like...
I wonder why. I wonder why you think it's so good.
But I forgot to mention in my final thoughts, I didn't write any of the rundown or any of my outline or any notes at all during the movie because I just didn't want to take my eyes off the screen. It's one of those movies, man. Okay. Anyway, rundown time. Zach gives us numbers for things from this film, comedic and observational. Mitchell, are you ready to start us off?
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
J.K. Simmons firing you.
3 out of 5.
Closing a freeway for a dance number.
3 out of 5.
Tickling the ivories.
4 out of 5.
Lady, why you be tripping like that?
3 out of 5.
No, Jabal, you be tripping.
4 out of 5.
Damien Chazelle's direction.
4 out of 5.
Ingrid Bergman wallpaper.
3 out of 5.
Biting your lip like you're concentrating.
3 out of 5.
Zach Garrigus as Carlo the screenwriter.
4 out of 5.
Summer montage.
Aw. 3 out of 5.
Keyboard solo.
3 out of 5.
Emma Stone as Mia.
4 out of 5.
Epilogue dream sequence.
4 out of 5.
Requesting Iran from a serious musician.
3 out of 5.
Seasonal transitions.
3 out of 5.
How about one for you and one for me?
4 out of 5.
2 for you and 1 for me.
3 out of 5.
All for you and none for me.
2 out of 5.
Hating jazz.
4 out of 5.
Everybody driving a Prius.
4 out of 5.
Christian trying to convince me about musicals.
3 out of 5.
1 second, Dangerous Minds meets OC time. Sad.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
All right.
No numbers.
Man. Oh, I totally forgot to mention how funny it is that she's like auditioning for the CW. That's an
Is
interesting
it the
rundown, I
CW?
guess.
Or is it...
No, but it they don't say.
The
but
CW
it
is
just
the nature
feels
of the
like
rundown.
it. Okay.
I also... I'm sure you guys did too. I had a good chuckle at everyone owning a Prius.
Yes.
It's anything involving a Prius is basically a punchline with this group due to my vehicle.
What color is it, Zach?
It is bright orange.
Thank you.
And you know
It's
what?
bright
It's
orange.
nondescript.
Now you know, dear.
Yep.
According to the screenplay of the briefcase, it sure is.
If you walk near it at all, you're just gonna make it dirty in like 2 seconds.
My car is already extremely dirty. If you ever see an
It's gonna
orange
look like
car,
It's gonna look like a November Halloween pumpkin, Zach. All right.
it has. I really need some snow to clean it
Okay,
off.
I hope in the YouTube edition of this episode, you've got a picture of your bright orange Prius front and center.
Yeah.
Now that I've said it, you have to do it, Zach. There.
You have to put like a green stem on top. That would look so cool.
Well, I'm not gonna do that.
I believe you're next, Zach.
I am next. Next time it'll be my last turn hosting for this season, and so I am bringing out the big guns. I'm bringing out, at this time at least, my favorite film of all time. Now, I haven't seen this film for a while, but this is kind of the peak of the pyramid of the 3 movies that I call my favorite of all time. We're going to be talking about Cool Hand Luke, starring Paul Newman. And much the same as...
Sorry.
Yes, Kenyan alumnus, Paul Newman. Christian has just doxed himself. And much as... much as La La Land was kind of a movie that woke Christian up to, the different things that can be found in film, I think Cool Hand Luke in a lot of ways was my film that did that. I'd seen varied movies before it, but it's one of the first movies I saw that was like an older classic film that I actually really enjoyed. And I feel like it's a movie that's had a great effect on me throughout my life. So tune in next time if you'd like to hear us talk about Cool Hand Luke.
Awesome.
Huzzah.
I'm genuinely looking forward to that one. Oh, man. Here's to the ones who dream. It's been fun. This has been Cookie Pocket. This podcast has been about film. Thank you guys once again. Signing off. See you next time.